afternoon, good evening, good morning to me, folks. It's your man, always George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Bodybuilding Talk, coming to you live on YouTube. Well, folks, it's the last Monday of April. I can't believe time is going by fast. It seems like we just started 2025. We're just, I would say, just about halfway through it. Once you get through April, you get May, and then before you know it, it's summertime. It's gonna get warm out there, fellas. Also the ladies will come out there nice, and it's nice clothing because it's hot. So this is a subject I hadn't really touched on before because, as you know, I tried to also be informed and educational about bodybuilding. Also, there's a little side to it. We also talk about the finish of it. It's the idea of mixed fighting, where it's a certainly popular finish. A couple of guys suggested it to me. I was hoping they're gonna have fun because they're a little bit more into it than I am. I've watched some stuff here and there, like in one thing in wrestling they do quite often is imaging the wrestling. It's mostly done in more of the lower end companies, but back in the day, if you remember, uh, when China came on board in the attitude area of WWF, not WE, WF, then she was always jumping the guys, body slamming them, fighting them, and then she became the first woman to hold the Intercontinental Championship. Rest in peace to China. And also, you remember the Dudley Boys. What they used to do was they used to slam women through chairs and tables. Remember when 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 what's the face? Billy Ray says, Devon, get the table. That's where they get the idea for the ladders, tables, and chairs match later on. Because remember, it was originally the ladders match that was back in the day with Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels. Then later on, I think one thing that changed it was with the Dudley Boys and Edge and Christian. They weren't really brothers. They were good friends, but they weren't really brothers. And they had brought the chair. They do the chair concinto. It was a two chairs hit guy in the middle. And the Dudley Boys always brought the table. So that's when they made it to the ladder chair table matches later on. But mixed fight with women has been kind of popular in the last few years. It's also like it's a fetish. There's quite a few ladies who I know who have had a stint as in mixed martial arts. A lady that we recently interviewed, the lovely Miss Nikki Ricks. She was a fighter back in the day. Of course, she switched over to bodybuilding. Also, one lady who I'm a fan of, Jacqueline Fuchs, or Jay Fuchs. She also fought. She fought a lady I remember fighting her years ago. It was Jermaine Duranami. Jermaine. We later on went to UFC. She just retired last year, and she did some boxing for a good bit. But it's a different level when you look at mixed wrestling and fighting, because there is, yes, that's why I have the adult Avajanic, because there's a lot of sexual innuendos to it. There's guys who are into it, fighting with women, being submitted, being put in situations, getting knocked out. I've heard stories, so of women who do, some of the ladies who do bodybuilding but also do sessions. They had guys quite literally ask them to choke them or knock them out, to hit them, because some guys are into that. Not me. That's never been my thing. Yes, when I was younger, we young boys used to fight with the girls, because the girls want to, prove themselves to us boys. But at the same time, when you fight with them, they're going hard, but you're not going as hard. You're a different type of hard. But especially if the girl's getting more developed and she's getting older, it's just strange things that happen when you're young, especially teenagers. So my guest should be coming here. I know one of them says he should be here. The other one I sent to, I hope he does make it, because I really can use the feedback, because like I said, this is not so much my cup of tea. But we were talking about, but one person that really sticks out to me, and you might, if you never heard of her, her name is Gabby Garcia. If you know who Gabby Garcia is, she's an MMA fighter, and she fought on quite a few promotions. I remember a few years ago, Gabby actually tried out for the UFC. And that was back in the day. I think they were trying to do the bantamweight division. She didn't make it. I think she got choked out by a girl, because she's a big girl. Gabby's no little Wilton Flower. She's a big girl, and she has a good amount of size, muscle. We have here one of the guests here, my man Brandon BC Royce, coming through.
What's going on?
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah. I just missed that last part because but yeah, I was having a little issues with signing in the StreamYard.
Yeah, I usually if I have your email, I probably best to send direct to your email because sometimes I don't know. It's all depending if you're on a computer or laptop. Sometimes it's kind of fun like that. But anyway, I was talking about a lady that I know who's an MMA fighter is Gabby Garcia. If you ever heard Gabby Garcia, she is probably one of the biggest women around in mixed martial arts. She competed for different organizations. She even tried out for UFC years ago, and she's even done some. She actually a while back did some mixed fighting.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I mean, I saw her like hop on the scene like I think it was like 8 years ago. Because I know she's 6'3" and like super huge. Not gonna lie, her technique is horrible. I've seen she just uses her size to really overwhelm much smaller, also less experienced girls. Because there's not a lot of big girls that are um, actually very good at martial arts. Just to be honest, because not a lot of them do it. The biggest like really good girl that I've ever remember seeing was Ann Wolf, who was not bodybuilder or anything, but she was a boxer and she was legit. She was amazing, but she was like 5'9", 100, and she probably got up to 200 pounds in the off in like when she was not cutting for weights, but her fighting weight was like 168, 175 pounds. She was during the days of like Layla Ali. But for whatever reason, most big girls just don't get into martial arts. And then when they do, there's hardly any competition for them. So they don't really develop a lot of skill or technique unless they're sparring with just dudes.
Yeah, because quite a few. I know I talked to quite a few ladies. I interviewed some ladies a while back who does MMA and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. You have to most times spar with guys because there's not a lot of. Well, sometimes they're in a gym where there's not a lot of girls around, and sometimes they really want to go hard. And with some women you can't go as hard as you can with men. Well, I know one thing. A friend tells me this: the guys don't go as hard. They might drop off a little bit because they know they might have the strength and also they have to pull back some because they don't want to hurt the girls. But a
Yeah.
while back, Gabby did get involved in a match. It was, I believe, it was a mixed martial artist match. It was I think it was BJJ. If anybody knows what Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and this is from a video I found when I was searching around because I know that's a good example because I know a lot of guys are a lot into it. So here it's a video where she is at a conference. This is the guy she's facing off with. I forgot his name. She's chasing after him, but here she goes. She's getting choked out, and she taps. And and the guy's you saw the guy. He's not that big of a dude. I mean, I think he's maybe 5'8", but he kissed her and he chased after her. But it was an event. I think one thing I heard know about Gabby. She's not that good of a ground fighter. Here she is. Also, a little video I found her with another lady who I'm a fan of. That is just Christina Justino Cyborg. They're with one of their friends at a camp.
You're gonna get Emerson. Come on! Nobody gets Emerson. It ain't Andre. He's running out of gas. He's gas.
Cyborg Garcia and Rob Emerson. Get him in the ice tub.
Oh no! So, yeah, you gotta get. Oh shit! They're getting. Look at Gabby's fishes in tournament. Don't get hurt, champ. We got to fight in 2 weeks. Robbie, stay with it, Rob. Don't give up. Oh, she got your balls. She's going for the shit. Nice.
If I was you at this point, I just give up. Just give
Rob
up.
is nuts. Welcome, Rob. Just gotta lose it. Are they gonna get it right?
Yeah, folks.
Well, you see, Rob was up against two women, and one of them is Chris Cyborg, the other one, Gabby Garcia. And dude held his own. I mean, I don't know if any of us could do it, try to fend off two women that big and that strong.
Well, they're playing around. You can see that they're they're not really like trying aggressively, and he's not too much either. But he's also a trained MMA fighter, so like no matter how big Gabby is, she doesn't possess the skill or technique that would handle a man who's even a dude who's like probably 140 something pounds would probably be able to overwhelm and defeat her, just because with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I mean with any martial art, the more you practice them, you realize it's not as much about size and strength. It is about technique, repetition of training, experience, going up against quality opponents. And also too, genetically, men, we just there's like probably, I would say, thousands and thousands of years of having to hunt and fight in wars and all this other stuff that flows through our genetics, that and just also our builds are meant for more aggressive use of the body. And women, I found it's very hard, especially when showing them how to punch and stuff. And the female bodybuilders are generally the worst at this. Teaching them how to go from generating power from their feet all the way through into their punches. And I keep focusing on punches because I mainly am more interested in boxing. I haven't trained that much in BJJ, and I know BJJ is usually BJJ and judo is something that girls tend to be more adaptable to in terms of martial arts versus something like striking, like punching. When it comes to kicking, girls can be pretty good at it as well, just because it's so much flexibility and they have big legs. But when it comes to actually learning how to generate power from the ground up into your punch, that is something that women struggle with almost universally, but especially bodybuilder type build women, because they're very stiff. And they don't understand that it's all about using your body as a whip. And also bodybuilder dudes too, they're not really that good at throwing punches unless they grew up like doing like martial arts or boxing, stuff like that. It's a way different type of use of your body. Like even I had to, because I do train on and off at this boxing gym, and we have some good actual girls there at the gym. But they're all smaller. None of them are really big. There's some that are tall and lanky, but a lot of them are like 5'6", 140 to 160 pounds. Some of them are pretty muscular. They're just not on the level of, say, a Gabby or any bodybuilder type of build. They can strike and move around very well, but outside of that, people don't understand that you have to learn how to relax your body and turn it more into a whip, an explosive coil for martial arts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you mentioned earlier Ann Wolf, she was pretty good. Remember, she knocked out this chick. She was 6'6", and that was, I think, the biggest knockout. Yeah, Vonda War. It was like 1 minute and a second into their first round, and Vonda was doing pretty good. She had a pretty good career, but it was just that Ann was just strong. And I think one thing always the fight I wanted to see was Ann Wolf between Layla Ali. That never happened. I think was the thing about the money issue.
Layla was scared, bro. But Ann Wolf would have destroyed. Like Layla would have got ragdolled by Ann Wolf. And I liked Layla Ali. I liked what she was doing for women's boxing at that time, really putting it much more mainstream. And she was bigger. Like Layla Ali, like, she's 5'10", but when her walking weight, when she's not cutting her down, she's well over it. I think they say she was at least 200 pounds, but she's probably 200 to 220. So she's a big woman, but Ann Wolf, like, country Texas girl, she was rough. I think Ann Wolf could probably knock out a lot of dudes, just to be honest.
I kind of on the fence on that. She could, depending on the size of the dude. I don't know, if it's like maybe guys at the lower end. Still, she's a woman. You got to fight guys who probably used to getting hit by guys a lot bigger, or guys who have more power. Even if she fought somebody within her own height and own weight, there's a good chance she may not beat him because, as you said again, men, we have that natural strength. We are, I often say this through my interviews, men's purpose in life, we are built to battle, breed, and die. That's it. Anything else is a little extra. I know one would say, we're supposed to provide. Well, that comes along with it. That's the thing is, because as men, we have, certain qualities about us. And like the thing is that it is kind of a fetish. Some guys, like I remember a few years ago, it was this female boxer. She fought this guy, and it was in a match. I've forgotten her name. It was this little Asian dude, and I think the fight was like for charity. And then she beat him. The guy only had like a 1-1 record. He was a jockey, right. Yeah. And then
he sucked.
Yeah,
he wasn't a good fighter, and she wasn't either. I know who you're talking about. She looked very butchish, like she looked very masculine herself, but she was a woman. I was back to the Ann Wolf thing. Like when I say she could knock out guys, I'm not talking about other professional boxers. Now, other professional boxer men, if they're much smaller than her, yes, she could knock them out. But in terms of like regular guys, like she's well capable of knocking out a regular guy because the average person is not used to getting punched hard in the face by an actually well-trained boxer, and it will screw your head up. Like it will. You think that you're tough and all this other stuff, but it's one thing to take punches from people who are just, regular brawlers on the street, stuff like that. But to take a punch from an actual well-trained boxer, it is, especially if they hit you in the right spot at the right time and you're coming forward and all that, like it will jar your world up. And you may still be standing, but your system is not working properly.
Yeah, especially if they hit you like in the temple, inside the head, or a body shot. I watch. Sometimes I've seen guys get taken down by a body shot, get a head shot. Sometimes the thing is, you want to go for the head. Maybe somebody might have a strong head, but if you hit them right in the lungs, the kidneys, someplace where they're a little sensitive, and it takes them out, the liver, they fall. We have here a man, Curtis L. Jr. Curtis coming through. He says, "I remember Gabby. I heard that she really is tough, and there was a character in Street Fighter that was actually based on her." And it's just like, and he said again about bodybuilders. I know, like I said again, one of the ladies who I used for the cover, Jacqueline J. Fuchs, she fought back in the day. She did Muay Thai. She fought Jermaine Duraname. I also should have seen in boxing. Something she wasn't even that good of a boxer, but and then there was some other. I think I interviewed a lady who a while back who did kickboxing, and now she's a bodybuilder. And there's one lady who I follow on social media, and she does a little bit of it. She does a little training, and that's Lavinia Battles. And a while back, I saw a video where she was doing. She was working out and training with her friend, and I think it was in the gym. And Lavinia, I mean, I'm a fan of hers. I think she has a great body. She has great potential. Maybe you might see her someday. She's been to a couple Olympias already, but maybe someday she might switch up and maybe find something else you want to do. Here's the video right here. It's her and she's sparring. Question, would she make a good boxer? Especially like one thing with boxing you can't have too much muscle mass. That's the thing. I learned while I was doing, like I said, I got a friend of mine. He's the one who really put me on into, the into mixed martial arts, and really got me to start doing my interviews and reach out and do more content on bodybuilding. My man, Coach Sherry Harrison, shout out to him. He tells me that with that much muscle mass, it's a lot harder because even though in a female boxing match you only have 2 rounds, and then you depending on how long you go, sometimes if it's just exhibition, you might do 3 or 4 rounds. If it's like a real boxing match, you have 10. I think that's the most for a title fight.
Yeah. The thing is, when it comes to carrying that much muscle, um, she would have to be knocking out the girls very quickly because she's gonna tire herself out. Um, I will say that of all the female bodybuilder type people, the only other one that I remember that was really good at punching was her name was Gina Davis. She was much heavier. She was actually way bigger than Gina or Lavina, but about the same height, I think. She could really whip her punches, and that's one thing. Like uh, that's like I had never seen that video. I've seen a couple others of Lavina punching, and she's definitely improving. There's still some way she's got to go in terms of like really exploding and coiling consistently, but she does punch very well for a female bodybuilder, much better than 99% of them. And at least on that video, she's very good on her feet, which is very, very important. Being able to get in, get out, stay loose. Like that, if she was able to actually keep that level of footwork and athleticism while she's boxing an actual person, then she could be very dangerous because she does have power. Like you can hear when she's punching it, like even the ones where she's not fully connecting solidly, like even if she's just grazing, there's still a considerable pop. Um, so who knows if that's something she does decide to do? It would be very interesting to see. But even a girl like her, like say if she was gonna do mixed boxing, she would have to do it against dudes who are much smaller than her. And that's something that they don't, whenever they're engaging this whole idea of mixed boxing, it's like, okay, it's well and good. But even if a girl's on steroids and all that, she's gonna have to go up against guys who are much smaller than her. And even then, that's not guaranteed because the much smaller guys are much harder to hit, much faster, much quicker, and then they still have explosive power as well, and they have a ton of endurance. So, but yeah, it's just, the way biology is at this point. Who knows if it's going to, I'm not saying this stuff will never happen. There are women in the world that could beat up men their own size and women who could beat up men who are bigger than them. It's just based on training levels. There's very few women in the world that are going to beat up men their size if they're both equally trained. Say they're both both professionals. Um, like a girl like Amanda Serrano. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, I know the real deal.
Yeah, she could actually fight and probably beat several amateur level men of her size, and even some who are professional who are early into their career. But that's because she is really, really tough and durable. She has an extremely strong chin, and great technique and ferocity. So
Yeah, yeah, I'm a fan of the real deal. I think her last fight with Katie Taylor, I'm going to tell you the truth, that was a BS call. Katie Taylor, all she did was hold. She headbutted. I mean, one thing, yeah, Amanda, she took a licking. I mean, her whole head was scarred up, from that fight. But like I said again, yeah, it's a different level between if you look at men and women when it comes to professional level boxing. One person always says he thinks she could beat some guys is Clarissa Shields. I'm a fan of Clarissa
only
Shields. Hmm?
only guys who are going to let her win. If they're guys
Yeah.
of the same height, because I've seen her spar against guys And there's several times when the guys are not throwing punches back. And if they do, it's like a really light, touch. Those are promo videos to hype her up. She's good. She's got great reflexes. She doesn't have great power though. But she has great boxing technique, skill, stamina. The thing is, though, if she was to go against any guy who's anywhere close to her size, he will mop the floor. If he's actually trying, he will mop the floor with her.
Yeah, because I remember she was doing sparring with this guy. He knocked her down. She got mad about it. And that's the thing is, you're fighting a man, and he probably pulled a good bit, but then if he gets a good shot in, that's it. You take that, you shake off, you get up your butt, and then you keep on moving. But sometimes Clarissa, her personality, she's very, here's my man who just came through. Shout out to my man,
hey, what's going on?
Yeah,
what's up,
he's also a fan of women in mixed fighting. I think it was both. I think both you and Brandon suggested this topic for me.
Yeah, I think. That's honestly when it comes to drawing women, my specialty is the boxer woman. But I generally, because it's like this weird because I know the dynamics of what would happen in real life. I do usually draw the woman much bigger and stronger than the guy, and it's not always making her like a bodybuilder physique, but more like a curvy, big athletic physique, and then making the guy much smaller. Because in my mind, it's if we're talking about being realistic, that's the only realistic way a woman's going to say consistently be beating a man in something like boxing. So, but that's just my own personal preference. Just it's weird. There's not a lot of bigger muscular girls in the world, period. But then there's not hardly any of them want to do or even cosplay as stuff like boxers because they're very shy. A lot of them do tend to want to be as feminine as they can, even if they're bigger. So they're afraid of the idea of being seen as something like a boxer, which is considered, it's a much more masculine, brutish type of character. They have no problem trying to be something like a Wonder Woman or any strong character like that, but that's because it's associated with so much more feminine ideals, even if they are big, muscular, and strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I tell you, Wonder Woman. It's kind of like a masculine woman role, like an ideology.
But she is.
That's it. Yeah. So she has a lot of history to that. So
yeah. Well, here we got a man, Panther 7 coming through. Shout out to Panther 7. Haven't seen him in a while. Says, what are some of your guys' favorite mixed wrestling matches? Mine is Chelsea Green versus Marita in Lucha Underground. The matches were crazy, and so was the athleticism. Well, like I said, I used to remember when China back in the day was fighting when she was with WWF, not WWF, and I think she and what was that one? I think was it her, Chris Jericho, or?
Oh yeah, it was Jericho. She did wrestle against Jericho.
Yeah, Jericho. Yeah, and that was for the Intercontinental title. One woman I'm a fan of is Jordan Grace, and she did a lot of mixed wrestling back in the day. Her and there was another lady. Her name was Lufisto. They had a tag team called Pogs. It's a terminology short for fat ass white girls. Remember back in the day, Jordan was thick. Jordan, and Lufisto was Jordan now. I like Jordan then. I like Jordan now. Either one of them. I can go either way. But she used to do a lot of mixed wrestling. A guy named Darius Carter. They had a couple of matches here and there. Even she wrestled her own husband, Jonathan Grissom.
I don't even know who that is. I'm just starting to pay attention to it a little bit with the clips. Sometimes you'll send me and interviews you do, and then maybe sometimes I'll look at like there's some matches on YouTube and stuff like that. But I don't like my thing is session wrestling. That's majority of the times. So if it's like pertaining to like a man and a woman and stuff like that. I noticed though that You know, they like, especially like in social media, they'll show like a woman always beating up a guy or something like that. And because there's this video that me and you had looked at, George. It was this chick. She was like in the military and she was fighting this dude, and then she had him like I think she knocked him out a bit. He went on the ground, and then like she got him like on a suplex or something, a suplex or something like that. And then yeah, that was like a big deal over the internet because they were showcasing that. Yeah. So I mean, but I noticed that like I'll see like a mix. Sometimes I'll see like dudes fighting women, beating them up and stuff like that. And the latest thing I've seen where this chick, like she was like she's not a bodybuilder, but she put this bodybuilder to sleep, a male bodybuilder, because it starts off where he rushes in this dojo, this jujitsu dojo and stuff, and so he's challenging all these jujitsu students, and so he go against this guy, and the guy put him on the floor real quick and smacking him up and smacking him up, and then so the bodybuilder he gets up. And he the judo guy he introduces to this girl, and one of the students was a girl, and so he was like, so the bodybuilder was like, so what, you gonna do my dishes? She's gonna do my dishes. As soon as so she just grabs him up, like they both like wrestling and stuff, and so she has like the upper hand, and she puts him on the ground. And he's struggling, and then she just yoked him up, and he just went back to sleep. He fell asleep, and so they woke him up, and so he was coming at the guy, and so like the rest of the match is where the guy is just like tapping on him, the judo instructor, he's just smacking him up, and like it was like to a point he was bleeding. And like in his ear, and like I'm like, wow, like, and I'm like, yo, why, like, what made him decide? What made him want to do that? Like, want to go up against people that's more trained than him and stuff. But that kind of mess, that kind of like, I was amazed by this girl. Like, she just put him to sleep like that. But on the guest that you had, she was saying that that it's going to be like that because they're trained. You know, it only gets challenging when the guy he's like learning and stuff, and he knows certain moves and you know how to take down people, and that's where it gets challenging. But if the guy don't know how to do like any form of jujitsu training, he don't got a shot of taking a woman down. So
yeah. We have here, shout out to my man here, Raheem Hamilton coming through. He says, the Marvel movies have taught me that smaller women who weigh 80 pounds and is 4 feet tall can take down a well-trained male fighter who weighs 300 pounds with muscles who is 6'9". Also, shout out to my man here. This is Johnny 7 Bravo. He says, I love Jordan Grace and Mephisto. Yeah, I used to watch. That's what I got. I used to see him do stuff. And here is another comment from Raheem. He says, Jordan Grace husband reminds me of Mini Me from Austin Powers. Dude is tiny. That is like that. But Jonathan Grissom, he's maybe tiny, but the brother can fight. He's a good. That's why it's called an octopus.
He's like maybe 5 foot something. He's like the same height as his wife Jordan, but you can tell with his build, and because he's super swole, he's got somewhat of a bodybuilder physique, but he's like a Mighty Mouse. Like you can tell that dude can move around and fight. Now other bodybuilder type people, like whether they're men or women. So one of the things that's caused me to lose my attraction to like super shredded muscular women is when I started to realize it's all just really for show. There's very few of them who are still athletic and or strong. And when I mean strong, I'm not talking about just weight room strong. Weight room strong is way different than real life functional strength. But then also those of them who can actually like be lethal in a fight, like still move around like a bear or a cat or panther, like, and be just ferocious crazy. The problem is with all the muscle and how they train, and most of these people are pageant based type of people. They're just, it's all this muscle and Hulk is for show. These
So
people
here's
are
again. Here's again is they are competitors. They compete as bodybuilders. They're not interested in fighting. There's a thing's presentation. And many of these ladies who I know who are bodybuilders did start out in strong woman competitions beforehand. And some of them transition because doing like okay, you interview a young lady who does strong woman, and sometimes after a while that can really be a ground in your body. And same thing with bodybuilding. They're doing a sport, and like I said, I know quite a few ladies who started out as fighters, but then they transition. It's up to that person what they find about bodybuilding. Like I said, I'm an advocate. I'm gonna defend it. I think every person is gonna be different depending on what they came from. Because and many ladies, some of them started out as track and field. They ran, they played other sports, but now they don't play those sports anymore. That's why they got into bodybuilding because they wanted something different. Because maybe dealing with injuries or just that they like the sport. You have to love the sport.
I was going to say, in my opinion, from what I have, in my own anecdotal observation, very few of them have actually come from strong. Like when it comes to female bodybuilder, very few of them started out as strong women. More of them started as powerlifting, but very few of them also did martial arts, other than say maybe like when they were 5 years old doing karate, something like that. Most bodybuilder women that I've seen did play, a lot of them did play some type of sport, whether, like you said, track and field, maybe basketball or volleyball. And then there's a lot of them who didn't do any type of sport. But when I say that they're more pageant based people, they're more like beauty. They're more like, even though they don't conform to normal American beauty standards, their personalities tend to be more of the like, I want to be like a beauty pageant model type of person. Not a lot of female bodybuilders, from my observation, are actually rough and tumble types who say played football growing up or played or did like say, because strong women, what I like about them versus powerlifters, they actually have to run around and use explosive movements. Strong women, and I've done some one-on-one sessions where I've had some of them hit the mitts and stuff. They're actually very, very powerful. Very, even if they're big and burly, because they're having to run around and throw stuff and then also do like traditional deadlifting stuff like that, they tend to be much better at adapting to like a martial arts type of movements with their body. Just my own experience.
Okay. Here's a correction from my man Raheem. Says that wasn't Chris Jericho she fought for the IC belt. That was Double J Jeff Jarrett. JEFF JA
I remember him.
double T. Yeah, Jeff,
Yeah.
he's he's coming to guitar. Then he left and went on, and he helped establish TNA. And his father was a big time promoter. I remember he started a new look where he was like a Western cowboy. Because Jimmy Hart and he's like say, hey, my name's Jeff Jarrett. JEFF.
Yeah.
Double R.
Yeah, I remember him.
Jeff Jarrett. That is a cut. He's a cut there. I mean, it's really, wrestling was very entertaining. A lot of ladies transitioned. Quite a few ladies who left bodybuilding went off to wrestling, like Trish Stratus, Tori, Chyna. She competed in some bodybuilding shows back in the day, some bikini shows too, where she got into wrestling.
But Jordan Grace is the bodybuilder chick, right? That went to the she did the.
Actually, Jordan was never. She originally was always a wrestler.
Oh, okay.
And, she started out mostly as a wrestler, but then she really got into bodybuilding later on. She did a competition a couple of years ago where she won the overall in women's physique.
Okay.
And she could have done a national show, which probably could have got her pro card. And that's been about, I think, 2023 when she competed. This is her right here.
Yeah.
It was a show in Georgia, because that's where she lives.
Is she sticking with it? Is she still like sticking with it, or is she just sticking to wrestling?
Well, she just signed a contract with WWE, and now she's part of the NXT. Here's a little thing from her about a few weeks ago. She was at an event, and it was her and I think another wrestler. There's like some feuding go on between them, and here she is taking one of the security guys.
Okay.
Yeah, that's she was. It was her and this other female wrestler. There was that's like that's Jada Parker. Jada Parker is. She's over at NXT, and her and Jada were having a little fight in the back. Right here it is, right here. I mean, Jada. You ever seen Jada? Damn, she's like Cake City.
I haven't really been watching wrestling like that, but I noticed like a lot of women, a lot of women are involved in these organizations now. It ain't like before. Like you just seen like one or two. It wasn't like China. It was just China.
Right.
It's more than just a Pacific person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think the last few back in the day. Go ahead.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, because back in the day, it was a handful of women like Fabulous Moolah, or Whitney Richter, the late great Sherry Martel, Sister Sherry, But now in the last few years, women were wrestling, even back in the day, like 50s and 60s. But it really has blown up in the last 20 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think just truth be told, like we're seeing more muscular women on a regular basis, just in life in general, because as society, especially with Western society, as it advances more and more, the gender gap starts to close a little bit. Not saying that women are like biologically still capable of doing all that men are capable of, but they start to actively go out into the gym more. Like if you go to a random gym, you don't just see women doing cardio like how back in the day, or just doing yoga. Now, like in most, especially like bodybuilder or heavy lifting gyms, all the girls that are there are going to also they'll be doing their cardio too, but they're all going to be lifting a lot of times with their boyfriends or with a trainer or by themselves on their own. So that's why I believe we're seeing more like how you said, it used to be just China as the main muscle woman wrestler. Now we're seeing, if you go through all these different organizations, all of them have several, their versions of China. The thing that made China really special was how tall she was. That's what's missing from today's wrestling scene. You don't see a lot of the tall, muscular women doing it, but it may come back. There may be a new bloom of them.
Yeah, I remember back there was a lady who was an actual professional bodybuilder back in the day, Nicole Bass. She was 6'2", and she was over there. She wrestled. She wasn't that good of a wrestler, said it, because she like hurt some people. Or remember the Anne-Marie Crooks, better known as Midnight.
Yeah, she was good.
She was really good. They say she was really good.
Really.
There was some shit I think Vince didn't, because it wasn't when she was coming in. I don't know, it was just yet at the time when WCW was getting bought out by WWE. It was still WWF then. Switch WWE. I'm trying to remember.
Like 2005 or 6, I think.
Yeah, I think by that time was I switched over to WWE because it went back to this other company called the World Wildlife Federation. They sued them because of the name, because there was some issue with donations and people sending money to them thinking it was WWE, the World Wrestling Federation, but it was just because they had the same thing. They switched it, so it became WWE, get the F out. But yeah, China just had it. And also, remember, China trained along with Triple H. They trained on the same school. Killer Kowalski, that was her mentor. So she was training and working with the guys. And, and that's the thing is, we train with the guys, you get to learn something. Like, we had a comment from my man, shout out to my man, Raheem, says, there was a South Korean female bodybuilder who was on a reality show about fighting. She decided to pick this skinny guy. she thought she can beat.
Oh, I know what he talking about. I know what he talking about. I forgot her name. I forgot her name. Chum something. I can't. Kim. Wait, let me see. Hold up, let me see. I know what he talking about. Yeah, she was challenging this dude. It was like this obstacle thing that they was doing or something like that, and she was like challenging this guy, and so the guy got he had a background of mixed martial arts, and so she was trying to take him down, but he was like overpowering her and stuff, and so like the girls like in the like in the show they was like saying that they was complaining that he was overpowering her, that she's a woman and stuff like that, and people was talking about it like if it was the other way around, nobody would say anything, but because he's a man and he overpowered her, it was a big deal.
Let's get something straight. Like when it comes to these shows and stuff being caught on camera, especially if it's man and woman, a lot of times these are staged. Like, but even though I think in reality he would probably beat her, like she's a bodybuilder. She's not trained in martial arts, so it doesn't matter how small he is. He's gonna definitely overpower her.
Her name is excuse me for a second. Her name is Chun-Ri Kim. Chun-Ri Kim.
So I don't find it entertaining if I find out like, a small man beat up a woman bodybuilder in martial arts because he was trained in martial arts, blah blah blah, or even if it was a small woman who beat up a big male bodybuilder if he's not trained. Like, it's like, well, duh, like they're not trained, so there's no, she looks pretty good, but it's different when you've taken, say, just a random person who's just a bodybuilder. They've never done anything martial arts related in their life, versus, say, like a girl like now that Lavina girl who's working on the mitts. She's getting comfortable and familiar with how to use her body in a physical standpoint. I see it. Now the main thing that Lavina is going to need to learn how to do eventually, if she's really serious about it, she's going to have to start sparring, because the sparring really trains your body and shows you she looks really good. But sparring is what really trains you for how to use your body in a martial arts capacity, and then also how to react whenever you do get hit or start getting overpowered by someone else. So
because the thing is, sparring, you learn how to work on your stamina, your strength, you work on the movements. Remember the part when the guy the guy was training with mitts, he was like taking the pad and tell her how to move properly. But here she is, the girl that KL talked about. I think she competes in another federation. I don't know if she ever maybe want to switch over and come to the IVP. I mean, we see a lot of ladies come from South Korea in bodybuilding the last few years. I mean, I think she can probably do well. I mean, she has a great look to her, nice muscle, very feminine. I mean, I think she could do well. I mean, I hope, I think it was another lady, I remember, she was also from South Korea, but I think I heard a while back she had got pregnant. Now I think she's now just had a baby. Be while we come back. Here's a lady that I talked about this lady before. I'm not a fan of hers because of a particular thing that is Stephanie Cohen. And Stephanie Cohen is a doctor.
Wait, why did you say you don't like her? Why did you say you don't like her?
Here's the situation happened. If you hadn't heard this one, what she did was she posted pictures of her ex-boyfriend's girlfriend on the internet. She got arrested. She fought the police. And then they were going to charge her. I don't know if they charged her or not for, that's technically within the realm of sex crimes. Because this is her ex-boyfriend, and she posted, and that's embarrassing. You're supposed to be a professional. Whatever situation happened with you, this man, but then she's still a woman. Sometimes, especially, she's kind of a brat. but she does do boxing and she does powerlifting. Here she is a fight a while back she fought.
Yeah, Stephanie Cohen, I don't know much about. She does seem kind of bratty based on just what I've seen on her posts, but I do like the fact that she is a girl that started out powerlifting and then trained, and she's an okay boxer. Like she can go up against girls her size and put them down. But if she was to go up against like an elite female boxer, she'd probably get owned. So there's something to this where they are picking matches against people that are decent, like not bad people, but people that they kind of know that they're gonna beat or be able to beat. But she is still solid. Like she's very well trained, very explosive. It's not like she's a phony. It's not like she's a Jake Paul going and beating up like people in fake fights or fixed fights.
Yeah, I still think that Mike Tyson beat that boy. I don't know. I think Mike was holding back a little bit. I mean,
He was. It's not even a Jake Paul. That's just something to get rich white people, and I mean, he's a rich white Disney kid, and it's something to get people like, oh look, this YouTuber, this guy beat one of the greatest black heavyweights of all time. Blah blah blah. It's just a hype job, and anyone who knows what Mike's capable of, even in his 60s, when you watch that fight, you know he wasn't trying to fight. He was paid to lose, which makes me lose even more respect for Mike Tyson, just to be honest. He didn't have to get into that situation, but he chose to. So that's
not
on
like
him.
Not like Mike was broke. I mean, he's making big money from selling
And
weed.
she got a nice body, man. Sorry about that, fellas.
Yeah, Stephanie is really good.
I think somebody asked her if she ever considered doing bodybuilding, but she said no because that's not her thing. Because and she does hang around because there's she does hang around bodybuilders. There's a picture with her and Richard Daniels in a gym. I think it's the same fight she was in earlier. And you see, she does have a good amount of muscle density.
Yeah, she do.
She's very good. I like for a big muscular girl, even though she's short. Like for a girl her size, she moves very well with that type of muscle. So for me, I would love to see taller girls with that same type of physique who say come from powerlifting or bodybuilding or whatever also start boxing, because you can see with a girl with muscle, they have potential. It's all about learning how to move right, reacting when they've been hit, and being light on their feet. That if they can manage that with the muscularity, they're going to be dangerous. They're going to be able to destroy most average, regular women. Even if the regular woman is a trained boxer,
Yeah, I think one thing is you got to be careful with any trained boxer, because you know what, the thing about fighting, it's about how well you come in, your training, if you are someone who has a skill set, like we talked about earlier with Clarissa Shields, she's more like a Floyd Mayweather boxer. She has good defense, but not a lot of power. She maybe only have a record 2 knockouts. The rest of it was by points.
To go off topic, I think she messing with Papoose now, right? Like the rapper.
That's probably stage 2. That's probably like a lot of these celebrity things. I'm one of those that I look at a lot of stuff that gets thrown to us on TV and all that. I'm like, a lot of this is probably set up by their handlers. Who knows? Maybe they really do like each other, but I feel like that's something to be like, oh, now look, she's dating hip hop dudes, stuff like that. It's something to help promote her brand, because she is a brand, like when you talked about earlier. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say real quick, because Papoose, he was messing. The history with Papoose and Remy Ma, it turned sour, and so all of a sudden he with Clarissa. So I don't know. Maybe it's like a way to get back at Remy Ma. I don't know. Who knows?
That's what I think. Some kind of stage, because when I remember in her last fight, all the comments on was on Instagram. All the comments were all about Remy Ma. They were all about Remy Ma don't want to get none of that. And I was like, okay, this was like more of a promotional thing So I look at, like I talked about it earlier. A lot of times, especially in today's world, when the cameras are well placed with a lot of this type of stuff, you just got to watch out. People stage and put on a performance and act, even under the illusion that, oh yeah, these two are really, like, for instance, the guy who played Spider-Man going out with what's her name, Zendaya, stuff like that. Do I really think that they're going out? No, me personally. I think that their agents and the studio is like, okay, you got to put on this performance because it's going to help generate more interest in your brand. And each of these celebrities, their brand is themselves, you know.
But always in history, Hollywood often has had, co-stars come together. Warren Beatty and Annette Bening, Brad and also Angela Jolie. I mean, he was married to Jennifer Aniston and he left her to go out hard. Now they had like 6 kids, and 4 of them their own. Sometimes, yeah, it's a bit of a commercial thing, but then there are all those relationships that do last. Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, even though they never got married, they're still together today, almost 40 years. Sometimes there are situations, yeah, it could be about branding yourself, but sometimes just general people who just get together in the right time, right place. Here we have him, a man, shout out to man Raheem, saying like this, says, I think Christy Hawkins can fight since she is a power lifter. Yeah, I think she doesn't. I don't think she did. I think does see a picture of her, a video of her doing some sparring or something like that. She does some powerlifting. Also, shout out to my brother, XA Gucci 23 coming through, says, salute George Page. Thank you, brother. Also, Rocky says, Jake Paul is the real deal.
Raheem,
You know he's trolling.
Troll.
Yeah,
He is the ultimate troll, bro.
And my man, bro, says, rich white kid, so true. Yes, that's true. And also, Raheem says, in fact, I want to fight Mike Tyson. I will wait until he turns 80 and I will fight. Here, I'm going to tell you this true story. I remember years ago, there was an interview with Muhammad Ali, and it was on 60 Minutes, and he was in Cuba, and he was visiting Cuba, and at the part, at the time, Ali was still in the early stages of his Parkinson's, and he still couldn't speak as well. He still had the shakes, and there's a part with Ali. I think Ali had to be about in his 50s, 60s, something at that time, and Ali's hitting the bag. It's like bam, 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 bam. He stopped and shaking, and you see like that, damn. You just don't lose those natural tendencies. And that's why I say that Mike Tyson could have beat them, knocked the boy out. They just did it for a promotion. Here,
bro, George Foreman would have knocked out before George Foreman passed. If he literally would have fought Jake like 3 months before he passed away, and he's like 70 something years old, he would have been able to knock out Jake Paul. It wouldn't have been the prettiest thing ever, but when guys who've been like, especially from that era of heavyweights, those dudes are a different breed of human being, man. They're so strong, tough, explosive with their power. Like modern day heavyweights and boxers would not be able to match, wouldn't be able to last hardly any of the punches that those guys took and dished out. Because guys even like Sonny Liston were freaking had just, it's like their hands were like weighed like a ton each in terms of how much force they could generate with their punches.
One boxer Ali says that is actually, in his opinion, is the greatest, was the late great Sugar Ray Robinson. That man fought over 100 so fights in his career. He was a lightweight too. And he beat guys. I think one of the most famous fights, the fight between Jake LaMotta. Even though Jake didn't go down, he beat Jake.
He beat Jake up.
Yeah, he beat him up.
Brutalized him. Like,
yeah,
they fought 6 times. Sugar Ray beat him 5 times. It's like,
yeah,
okay, you didn't go down, but you got your ass kicked.
Yeah, because back in the day, those guys used to fight maybe 20 more rounds. Now it's for just a regular fight, it's like 10, and for a title fight, it's 12. Because one thing is you can die in the ring because there's men who have died. Here, this is a comment from my brother XA. Again, shout out to him. He says, yeah, Mike was broke going into the fight. That's why he sell out his legacy to a white boy. Also, he said, instead of a brother, he says, Papoose is going to be Shield downfall. And because I think there was a situation where she was busted because they always do tests before and after the fight. And I think he said some issue with some kind of weed, even though she may not have smoked it as long as she was contact high. But I don't think that fight she had last time was disqualified. It was just some such situation where she says, "Oh, here goes a man can say, George, with boxing, it's not always about power. It's about going the distance with your opponent." Yeah, I believe stamina is important, but you know what? People they want to see the power. Everybody else just understand that. Yeah, those fighters who had good stamina, like what one fighter, he was pretty good fighter. He was pretty strong. Was Tommy Morrison, Tommy Guns, the late boxer. He was pretty good, but he just didn't have stamina. Mike's problem with stamina also, because I think one thing that I think Dusty Model should have worked on with him before he died was work on his stamina. Hey, if you had a guy that fell and doing that he knocked out doing sparring, put another guy in there. He wouldn't have lost a guy like Buster Douglas, but a guy like Buster Douglas, he I know he was a hammer egger to me, in my opinion, but he was fighting maybe 10, 12 rounds. He sometimes go the distance. That was the thing is if Mike had worked better on his stamina, he wouldn't have lost to a guy like Buster Douglas. Now, people say, "Oh, Mike had the flu." That's a possibility. If it was, it should have counted fight. No, he was sick, but it was just a guy like Buster just had better stamina. That's how he did.
I think Mike, even when he was winning and knocking people out, if you remember, I can't remember the name of the guy. There was a guy he still beat, but it became evident that even in Mike's prime, we're talking about in the 80s, when he got to round 6, if the dude didn't get knocked out by round 6, Mike was very gassed, and he would start eating and taking a lot more punches. He still went on to win that fight by knockout, but it showed the template that, okay, if you can get this dude past 6 rounds, he's got so much muscle and not enough stamina that, yes, he becomes vulnerable, and he's just like any normal person. And sure enough, then of course Buster Douglas comes, then Evander Holyfield, and then Lennox Lewis, and then a bunch of no-name people like started to, be able to expose him.
I seen Buster Douglas years ago. Like, he went to my friend's school, and everybody made a big deal. He had I think he had the heavyweight belt in his hand. He was like waving it and stuff like that. Yeah, everybody made a big deal about him.
Because remember that was the year when he lost the title. Mike was supposed to have been a special referee in a WWF match, but then Buster became the champion. There was a lot of like one. I think the guy he fought twice was Francois Botha. They call him the white buffalo. He was from South Africa. He fought him twice, and I think he beat him by knockout the first time. But then that next fight, he did take it to like about 7 rounds, and people were worried about Mike's stamina. Yeah. Here we got again from my man Raheem. He says, Sugar Ray Robinson was the truth. He says,
I think Sugar Ray may have been the best of all time overall, just all around.
Yeah, I taught Sugar Ray Robinson every. He's always throwing shit. Also, this is the thing he says. Said, did you know Tommy Gunn, a grandfather, was the late John Wayne? No, that was his great uncle. That wasn't because John Wayne's real name was Marion Morrison, but because back in the days, Tony Curtis's name was what's his name? It was something. It was Schwartz. Something I forgot his first name, but his last name was Schwartz. I forgot his first name. And Cary Grant was called Archibald Leach. Back in those days, you had those names like that. You wouldn't do. I was watching a thing which said that someone wanted to change Leonardo DiCaprio name to Lenny Williams.
Lenny Williams, okay.
And that's a good because he was so ethnic. Because Leonardo, he's Italian, so he looks like a everyday Anglo white boy. He's Italian. But you got to remember, there's some white people in Italy. Some of them, depending, you go from the northern side of it, they're very white complected with blue eyes. You go like up south, they're very dark skinned, pale, because they have mix of, I think Persian and also African.
They have black in them too. Yeah. Way back in those days, like North Africans and Southern Europeans, like Greeks and Romans and Italians, they mixed with Black people quite often back then. That's why I've seen Italian people, both men and women, who are like the same complexion as me. Yeah. Because
I was watching a thing. While I woke up like early. Was it Sunday morning? I was watching the Pope's funeral, You know, you could see there was so many different seeds of people of different races. I won't say race, ethnicities there. You know, we're all same race with humans, and he was a good man. Shout to him what he did and his contributions to the world. Here it's a gave from Raheem. It says, you all forgot about Riddick Bowe.
Yeah.
Sad you all, any y'all, fans. Well, like I said, Rick was all right. He was pretty good. But one thing was
Rick
that
was
what
good, but we didn't list all the great heavyweight boxers.
Yeah,
We didn't go
but
like all.
yeah. One thing I heard Rick's legacy because he ducked Lennox Lewis because he lost to Lennox Lewis back in Olympics years ago. He ducked him. That hurt his legacy. He did come back. There was some situations and stuff like that, but that really hurt his legacy because he dodged.
I don't think he
Lennox
would have
Lewis.
beat Lennox. Yeah, I think he would. I think he ducked him because he knew he wasn't going to be able to beat him. Riddick was good, man. Riddick put it on Holyfield, but he, as Lennox Lewis showed, like he was, a significant level above even Holyfield. So there's no ultimate shame in that. But yeah, Riddick Bowe does get kind of forgotten from that early 90s, late 80s era.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on a second.
Go ahead. We got a comment from a man. Raheem says, "Great uncle, my back here." Also, we have he says, "Do you know Martin Sheen's real name? It's actually, Estevez. His last name, because his first name, I think it's his oldest son is named after him. Because Charlie changed his name because Charlie's real name is Carlos Estevez.
Yeah, I know they Martin Sheen. He has like Mexican descendant. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. I forgot what is his. I think it was Manuel, because or something. Because his oldest son is named after him. Because Martin Sheen has 4. People forget this. Not just Charlie and also Emilio. There's his oldest son. I forget his name. I saw one time do an interview and it showed his name, and he's junior. And then also there's a younger sister. And then
they had
brother.
a sister.
Yeah, they have a sister. Yeah, and also remember his brother Joe Estevez. Sometimes he goes by Joe Sheen, but he goes by Joe Estevez. That's Martin's brother. But back to the subject again. How women in mixed martial arts and also the fantasy fighting. I know a lot of guys are into it. Me personally, I don't want no woman to be jumping on me and beat up on me. I don't know if that be something I would like. I think some guys are into it because it's something different. Especially, I know quite a few ladies who do it. I was hoping to have a lady on here to talk about it, but she don't want to talk about it. I respect her privacy because I know it's something where this is something she makes money on the side for herself. I know quite a few ladies who have done it that are, I would say, pro level bodybuilders. Because it's the way to pay their
bills.
Yeah, especially the competitor, because if anything, bodybuilding is an expensive sport.
Hey, I have some experience with the whole mixed. I've never done a session, but I've said before that I have dated some muscle women and bodybuilders, and one of the things that we've done is I would get them to put on the gloves, and I'd never have them punch me full force, just because, truth be told, I'm with you, George. Like, getting punched full force, it doesn't matter if it's a girl or not. It doesn't feel good. Like, there's nothing that turns me on about that. But there is a lot of fun in the play acting, especially whenever, like, say she's getting close and putting you in the clinches and stuff like that. So that doesn't involve any punching or anything like that. And then it's almost like a little bit more wrestling. Like, that is actually very fun for someone like me. And if she is stronger, say in close quarters, because I have been with two who, like, if we're distanced, I'm going to be much better at striking and getting away from them and, being able to attack and then get away and blah, blah, blah. And I'm able to generate much more power than they are. But when it comes to actually being close, where say they wrapping their legs or their arms around me, I've actually had 2 times where I couldn't get out. They had overpowered me. And for me, it was like the ultimate turn on. I was like, man, this is amazing. But I wasn't taking any damage. I wasn't getting hurt, and they were doing it playfully too. They weren't trying to like hurt me. So I think there is some fun with that type of, but I don't get the guys who get turned on by actually taking full punches when they're or like really
Yeah,
getting
you'd be
beat so
surprised.
hard.
I mean,
Yeah.
you'll be surprised. I mean, I was talking to somebody that does that stuff, and she was saying that, that there's guys that like getting kicked in the groin and stuff like that. No matter of fact, she said she told me that they would be fascinated by it, but then when they actually did it, it was a whole different story. They couldn't take it. And then she calls the term juggler, a joggler. That's what she calls it. And it's like a dude that's like getting punched, like in the video sessions and stuff like that. Yeah, and she was trying to get like people to be like involved or the videos because they can email her and stuff like that. And so every time like she got a guy and she would like kick him in certain areas or hit him, he couldn't take it. And and it kind of, well, like it was like a waste of time and stuff. She was saying there was this one dude that she works with. He could take a lot of hits and stuff like that in the groin area and stuff. She gave some name, and yeah, but there's dudes that they fascinated by it. Like I'm like, I have my limits. Like if you're gonna do that, give me some light taps or something. I'm not gonna do all that. Like, yeah, I mean, like, if it's like a little tap, a little bit, that like a knee jerk, a little bit, like, because it depends. Like, because like if she's like hitting you a little bit, like a little tap, it may not like hurt as much. But if it's hard, that's a different story. So, but there's some people, some little different guys out there. Like they take it to a whole nother level because that's the type of stuff that martial artists do. Like they get like kick in the groin and it doesn't affect them. Like they do some like technique or something like that. It's like I've seen it a couple of times where somebody it kicks them like in that specific area and they're able to like withstand it. So.
Probably Kegel exercises. I know one of the girls that I was talking about that overpowered me. We did do an experiment where she did what's it called, the thigh squeeze on my waist, and I kid you not, that shit was not fun at all. Like, because I was like, okay, it can't really be that bad. Like how they squeeze the watermelons and they squeeze dudes' heads and all that between their thighs. I had her do it around my waist rib cage area. And I literally had to tap because I was like, bro, this could kill me. This could kill me. Like, seriously, she could crush me. Her thighs were so strong, they could crush my rib cage. And I'm a pretty big dude. I'm almost 6 feet and 215. And I was like, that's freaking crazy. Like, some of them, it's not just show.
I agree. I mean, because when you're looking at it, you're like, wow, you're fascinated by it. Like, how strong is she? And then when you actually do it, it doesn't really, it ain't what you expect, So that's how I thought about the face sitting. Like, I was like encountering this dominatrix and stuff, and she had like this BBL, and it was like close to my face, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like laying down and I'm like, I had to just push back. Like, I can't handle all that. I can't do it.
Yeah. His comment from my man, he says his name, Martin, your name is Ramon. No, actually it's Ramon. I just, because we said it, I thought I said, wait a minute, his name was Ramon. It's Ramon. You don't know much about, stick to your girl, Natalia and the Bears. That's all.
I would love to see Natalia actually learn how to box. It's funny because I drew her as a boxer before, and she said she'd be interested in playing with the idea, but she's super stiff. Like it would take a long time for her to learn how to like loosen up.
I think I've seen some videos where she does some sparring or something, hitting heavy bag or something. Maybe it was somebody else, but I think I've seen it. I just can't remember. But there's one lady who I remember back in the day who was probably one of the tough fighters. That was Lucina Riker. You remember her? There was always talk about her versus Christina Martin, but it never happened. I think one time, I think it was the year when Christina Martin lost to a lady in a fight, and supposed to be our next fight was supposed to have been Lucina Riker. And then there was going to say something called like supposed to be like the $1 Million Baby thing, but then I think Lucina got a injury because she has so many injuries because for a long time she fought Muay Thai, and there was a fight she fought against a man, and that's I think on her it's on her record. It's the only loss she has lost in her Muay Thai career because she fought a guy and the guy knocked her out. You know,
he took her, he destroyed her. He was not playing around, bro.
I was about to say there's a old clip of China fighting Joey Buttafuoco.
Yeah, that was
that was such BS too, because he was way bigger than her, and neither one of them could box. Neither one could box. But I will say, if you actually look at that fight, the one who actually landed the hardest, cleanest punch was China. She actually clocked it really, really good one time, and he got pissed, and then he tried to overpower her and do all this. It was such a.
I heard that.
Oh, and dudes were like, oh, that shows like a woman shouldn't go to man. I'm like, bro,
but he's very boxing.
100. But she's not a boxer. He's not a boxer. Yeah. But he also weighs 130 pounds more than her. Doesn't matter that she's and got all this muscle. Like that dude was way bigger than her.
Well, that time China did drop a lot of muscle. She wasn't as big she used to be.
Yeah.
Remember after I think one thing they did. Remember she had the breast implants. She had gotten her chin downsized. You know, she still had good amount of muscle, but then she really downsized a lot. I think in the last 5-6 years of her career. But I remember there's a show used to be on ESPN. And that's why I brought Lucina Riker, because I jumped on her online, where she was doing a demonstration. And it was, I think, a show called Sports Science. And it was a demonstration she was doing about power and hit between a man and woman. Here he is. I'm going to pull it up.
All right, we're ready to go. 3, 2, 1. Oh my God. You broke the dummy. You literally blew out the back of his head.
Sorry.
So how hard did this girl hit?
Lucia has a very strong punch. She generated 922 pounds of force.
922 pounds of force. That's over 200 pounds of force more than Mo's punch. And amazingly, Lucia hit just as hard as professional MMA fighter Houston the Assassin Alexander.
I don't want to say I punch like a man. I punch like a coordinated athlete.
See, because he is a coordinated athlete. And the other guy, he just threw a straight punch. Now, Houston, as you said, is if Houston hit harder, it's depending. The other guy was more like, I remember watching that. The other guy looked like he was more like a regular ordinary guy. Not, he probably did some fighting, but nothing really big. And it's the levels, because she's coming from a running angle. I think the other guy just threw a straight punch. Now, if that was someone else, like let's say who was popular then that time, let's say Oscar De La Hoya or Roy Jones Jr. or even B-Hop, that would have been higher.
Yeah, they're right that she could hit harder than most people, and she did generate a good snap and whip into her punches, and that's why she said a well-coordinated athlete, because a well-coordinated striker is learning how to use their body in almost like a cannon, like I said, a whip. Um, if you're a bigger, stronger guy and you don't know how to explode your body into a punch like that, you're not going to be able to hit as hard. Now, you're going to be able to still overpower someone who's smaller just by like smothering them and pushing them back and all that. But if that smaller person hits you with that whip, like how George mentioned earlier, in the temple or something like that, then yeah, you can see a guy go out. I've seen regular girls knock out, grown men who are bigger than them. Sometimes it has to do if they, the dude was drinking or if he's just off balance or something like that. But if they're like, especially in nightclub scenes, it happens more often than you think. It's not like something you see every month or something like that, but it does happen, and it surprises everyone. It's like, oh my God. But it's like, well, she was pissed off, and maybe she wasn't a well-trained fighter or whatever. Maybe she just got a lucky hit in. But some of these girls actually have trained in, little dabbles, or they just got into lots of fights with their brothers, or maybe even their boyfriend. And so then all of a sudden they explode that one moment. So it's not impossible for girls to hit harder than guys, but it is, I think, impossible for elite women who are the same size as an elite guy. If they're both well trained in the sport, the dude's always going to hit harder. Like, no question.
Yeah, because like I say, men will have the strength, even if you're not that big of a guy. Because I grew up a country boy. We don't do no fighting. We wrestle. I don't know. Like fighting is something. It's just us as humans. It's something that we do. It's just, especially it's just come to either the natural desire, either a fight or flight. The choice to run or to stand, knowing there's a good chance that you might get your ass whooped. I mean, there's situations where what, I think I could take him, but then you look like Martin from the episode when he fought Tommy Hearns.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
It's a swelling going down. I mean, but Martin was a Golden Gloves.
Yeah, I know he boxed. I know he did box, but I didn't know he took it to that level of Golden Gloves.
Yeah, because you watch the movie Bad Boys, that scene, you can see how well, like guys like Stallone. I think who else? Quite a few celebrities did boxing when they're younger. Tony Danza. That's a good example.
Yeah, Tony Danza. I know that he was a boxer.
Yeah. Remember the episode of Fresh Prince when Will was fighting the girl? He had the
Yeah, I remember that one.
And she hits him, and he's like, I mean, and they go back fighting again, and then they started making out in the middle of the ring. But I think that's a lot of guys' fantasies, to get a situation with a woman. One thing is you got the gloves on. All you can do is bury your face in her head between the chest or something like that, or you can't really cop a feel that well. You got the gloves on. But
no, it's different. Trust me, it's different than that. It's like you both, if you have gloves on, then y'all can't feel each other. But if you take your gloves off, she may not be able to feel you, but if she's good with her hands, she can cup your head into her and stuff. For me, it's way better than just describing it like that. It is really, I mean, just full disclosure, some of the best sex I've ever had was when girls were dressed up as boxers and we started making out like that. It's for guys who are into that, like me, it's amazing. Now sometimes the girls do, like, there have been times where the girl will like take one glove off so that she can have better control with at least one hand. But it's incredible.
I remember there's a video. It's you circle on the internet, and certain sites, especially adult sites. It's Diana Cadeau. If I remember Diana Cadeau, she was doing some sparring, and there's a part of her where she's like in the gym hitting heavy back. She's topless, and Dana had just some beautiful eyes, that beautiful chocolate skin. I mean, and you just seen her just just going at it and just hitting the heavy bag. At one point she stops, and, at the end to where she just boom, boom, boom with the gloves. And Dan had the but that guys, we something about it, especially some people think it's normal to like something like that, but it's just everybody has their fetishes, their likes, the things that attract them, especially about a woman. And one thing is there is a lot of guys who, like KL mentioned, the guys who like to get kicked in the nuts. Personally, I don't want that. That's the last thing I want. If someone, hey, I might want to kiss someday, so I don't want that happen to me. But the thing is about these fetish with women, and be it wrestling, be it something like like we talked earlier about the guy who was the bodybuilder fighting the girl in a BJJ mat. Guys who are into dominatrix submission stuff. It's just there's some views. I used to get a thing from L. Scott Sales. L. Scott Sales. I still get them now because I hadn't ordered from there maybe in years. I used to get the magazines, so that's where I used to get some copies of Women's Physique World, and they have videos with women doing mixed martial arts stuff. They have the guys, but the guys would be kind of like pretty much in a short and top. And now and then there is this one I've seen, and it's she's a bodybuilder, but I think she's a fitness competitor. I don't think she competes anymore. And it's her and this bald dude, and they're both naked. I've seen it quite a few times on the internet, and it's just and she just has an amazing body. The guy is just bald, and they're showing the ring, and at the end, she knocks him out, and she's standing there, and it's just something about her body just glistening, sweat, her muscles are just pumping, and like I said again, almost a her smile. It was just something attractive about it. She had it was golden gloves she had. I think they call her the Scissor Goddess. I think that's when she was better shape, when she was still competing as a figure competitor. She never turned pro, but I seen that video a few times pop around certain sites. Because hey, I'm a single guy, I got nothing to do. Sometimes I'm bored, so but it's just something about it. It's just seeing this fit, muscular woman, and then you seen her body, you see it move, and just I mean, I think I remember seeing some videos where they were on sale where you're actually the guys fight the girls, and in the end,
Yeah, I mean they do have like naked wrestling and stuff like that. Yeah. I've seen a few of them. It was all right. I think I seen Brandy May do that. I seen Bianca Blanche do that. I think I've seen that from time to time.
Yeah, I think I've seen a few bodybuilders do it too. I know mixed stuff, because I said again, it's the way to make income in between shows. It's a lot of stuff's out there. I think there's one lady, I remember she did some kind of boxing thing, Chloe Gamon, if you remember her, short, just pure. She's kind of like, she was before Michaela Aycock, short, muscular. I mean, she was from Canada. I think she's from around about the French Canadian part of it, and she used to be friends with Nancy Lewis. They talked about how he used to hang out and go around, and she used to do that on the side because, it was a way to make money. Carla had to retire because she was issues with her shoulder. So, she stopped doing bodybuilding, but she was doing other stuff on the side to make her money and try to make a living.
Did you show like the Mike Larkin thing where he was showcasing that lingerie fighting?
Well, let me pull it up. Like, I do follow Mike. Give me a second. Let me see. I can pull it up. Because he does a lot of interviews with ladies in lingerie back. Because that's the LFC. I think I actually interviewed Jennifer White, better known as Bloody Jenny Valentine, and she does that. Yeah. And I think I know a couple of other ladies who who do the LFC. I think Brandy May also does it too.
Yeah. That's when you showed me her doing that. I thought you probably showed it already or something. That's why I wasn't sure to ask. Just asked.
Yeah, because because whenever you were, it just popped in my head when you mentioned it, and I think it should be right here. Give me a second, fellas, and I'll pull it up. You know, so if guys, if you follow Brandy Mage, she's supposed to be promoting her new reality show in Vegas. I think it's supposed to be coming out this summer.
Yeah, I gotta follow Mike on Facebook. I haven't been.
Yeah, yeah. Here she goes. And I think this is the fight with her, and there's another lady that was commentating.
Legs are wrapped around the body here in the opening round. LSC 41. Non-stop action thus far, and these two are continuing to deliver as well. Brandy May just,
That's an uncomfortable one.
Tough to watch there. Allie Spoon seems to be okay. She gets back to her feet. She seems to be maybe a little bit annoyed right now.
Yeah.
Calling for timeout. There is no timeout.
I think that foot stomp kind of threw her off a little bit.
Man.
When you get your bit smashed, you kind of lose track of things.
Understandable there, but yes, no timeouts allowed in combat sports. The referee will call those, and Allie Spoon needs to get her composure back together.
Yeah, I like the pressure that the Texas Tank's just kind of walking forward, not giving her a chance to kind of recover from whatever sort of shock she was going under,
See Brandy May just driving forward the final seconds here of the opening round. A round that, took a real.
Yeah, I'm gonna put too much longer. I do have the adult advisory on it. It's a good thing because YouTube can't say nothing if I put the advisory on it because
I was about to tell you the age restricted at that point.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I knew we were talking about this, so I had to put it up just in case because you know how. They always,
I mean, get into that. I don't know if people would take that serious. I think it's like something that you would see 1 o'clock in the morning and just watch it, or some site or something like that. But I don't think society would take that serious. And this goes back to what Brandon was saying about muscular women. With the athleticism, I don't think Brandy May had that athleticism of strike kicking and all that stuff like that. She seems strong, but she seems strong, but she don't have that athleticism like that.
Yeah,
she hadn't trained really striking. She has a great physique, and I'm pretty sure if she, look at how big especially her lower body, yes, her upper body is very muscular too, but if you really look at how buff her lower body is, especially in her thicker off-season type of build, if she was trained, and this would take maybe months or even years, if she was properly trained, then she could perhaps throw amazing kicks or punches. But that right there, what we just saw is there's no skill, no training. The public would just look at that as like a circus freak show.
Well, it's kind of because a lot of ladies who do that, many of them are wrestlers, because some have done that as wrestling. One lady who's on there, she does that, is Katie Forbes. Remember, that's Rob Van Dam's girlfriend. If they're still together, and I don't know. And she does it, because it's the way to make money. Because she was wrestling WE for the TNA Impact for a good bit, but then she wasn't that good of a wrestler. So eventually she would do this. I've interviewed, like I said, not just only Jenny Valentine, but also another lady. Her name is Brooke Gilly, and she was supposed to fight in a bare knuckle fight, but then she had to get sidetracked because she had an injury. She was going to make a bare knuckle debut. She fought in that organization also. She also she was going to get the bare knuckle. It's one of those things that, because there's a fetish for it. Because there's guys who like to see women like that, some of those ladies are either some of them either do professional wrestling. There are, I think I've seen some other bodybuilders have done it, and also generally a lot of girls should be strippers. It's really about, because they have a YouTube channel, and it's been around for quite some time. I follow it because, like I said again, I'm a single guy on board. Sometimes I like to watch something, something strange for some change. We can holler for $1, but but it's just as long as there's people who are entertained by it and there's a platform for it, people are going to watch it. It may not be the standard what everybody likes to watch, but there are people who's willing to sit and watch this content.
I will say if you want to take, so say, like what I was trying to get at when we first were, or start to touch on when we first started this conversation is, in order to like really get it to where it's sellable to the masses, to where it goes from just a private fetish thing to actually where, or even a freak show, to where it's actually viable, where the public would actually be really interested in seeing it. Kind of like how when Ronda Rousey was winning, people were very interested in seeing that. Honestly, if you had a girl who was built like Brandy May, exactly in that clip, but if she had real knockout power, at least in something like boxing, if she was actually able to knock out girls and showed skill, people would flock to see that. That would actually put women's boxing on a much higher pedestal, because it's one of the things that they're missing. They don't have many knockouts, and then they don't have that many attractive mainstream women, or attractive women who are top competitors actually doing it. So it's interesting to me that I think it could be a possibility sometime in the future, but the main problem is that there's just not enough bigger type of buff girl, thicker type of physiques who would want to train in something like boxing, because the truth is not many people really want to get hit in the face. It's not fun. And it requires a different type of temperament, especially from a girl, to try to engage in something like that at an earlier age. So, but that is, if there was ever, and I'll take it one step further, if there was ever a woman who was built like Brandy May, but she's pretty short, she's like 5'4", like, average woman height. But if there was ever a woman who was built like that, who was say 5'9" or above, and also was a good boxer, had great knockout power, or she's in BJJ, is be able to submit people like within seconds or whatever, that would really get the mainstream American public very interested, because it'd be like, in the back of people's minds, they'd be like, bro, that girl could knock me out. Even if it's a dude who wouldn't admit it in person, in the back of his mind, when you see someone like that actually fighting, and especially it's the delicate, weaker sex, but she's also super voluptuous and attractive, people would be like, man, that is impressive, extremely impressive. But we're just, we're not that at that point in human evolution yet.
I know Lexa Stahl, like she do BJJ, and I seen her fight Sugar Diamond, and it seemed a bit competitive and stuff. I seen like a couple of her matches and stuff. So
Yeah,
it's the difference between competitive and then elite. Elite is what I'm talking about. Women can get to elite levels. It just takes lots of training, training from a relatively early age to do, or as a young adult.
Oh, you talking about serious training type of thing?
Yeah, like that's what would get the match more interesting. Not just some, we see them like kind of halfway throwing strikes, or it looks staged. If it looks staged, there's several people that are going to be like, oh, okay, that was, rigged. But
I think you don't want some kind of, you don't want some kind of cupcake stuff, like, girls wearing like heavy gloves, or wearing the headgear. You really want to see some real actual, boxing. You want to see some women go toe to toe.
Yeah, I mean, just truth be told, if you're watching, let's take it to the animal kingdom. If you're watching a video clip of lions, even if it's lionesses or whatever, just play fighting, that's not going to be as interesting as when you actually see video footage of real lionesses fighting each other. Like really, they may not fight to the death, but there's different levels of them. And the reason I'm using that example is because I remember recently on my Instagram a video footage of a female lioness she didn't want to be bothered by this male lion, and she was going crazy. She didn't like kill him or do anything damaging too much, but she was so ferocious with her fighting that it made the male be like, all right, I don't want to. I'll try to go get some from someone else, like. But that type of level of belief that, okay, this is a dangerous creature here, doesn't matter if it's man or woman, but if it's a woman, we're more mesmerized by, oh, that's a woman, but she's also extremely capable and dangerous, similar to a lioness. That would generate people's interest way more than, say, the cupcake stuff. The cupcake stuff is going to mainly always stay in fetish, underground realm,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, here we got a comment from Dorian Hamer says, "What about Layla Ali? Yeah, Layla, beautiful lady, great skills. One thing I think always gonna hurt her legacy was she never fought Iron Wolf. That fight was a fight I think a lot of people wanted to see. It's kind of like I'm trying to think of a fight that I think like a fight people wanted to really see in boxing. Would be I think trying to think of. It didn't
I
happen.
ain't never seen a box, tell you the truth.
Yeah,
Layla's actually not that skilled, just to be honest. And she was way more athletic. She's naturally gifted with Muhammad Ali's genetics. But for a woman, she was able, and she was bigger than most of the girls she went up against. So she was able to just constantly throw punches against them and overwhelm them and then knock them out. She was not really a skilled fighter, and that's why she did not go against Ann Wolf, because Ann Wolf would have broke her jaw in one round, probably just like she did with that one tall girl, Vonda Ward. Nothing against Layla Ali. She still trained. She still had some skill, but she never got put to the test against any of the girls she went against. None of them, because they were all so much less skilled than her, and some of them weren't even athletes at all. So she just was able to use pure raw genetic ability just to overwhelm them. It's very unappeasing once you realize that she wasn't that skilled.
Yeah, one person she fought was Christy Martin, and Christy by then was already on her way out. I mean, that was a kind of disappointing fight.
Christy's also way smaller than her. Christy was 6 inches shorter, and Christy was naturally 130 pounds in her prime. Layla Ali is naturally 170, 180 pounds fighting weight and 6 inches taller. And yeah, Christy was on her way out. So it was like that was set up for Christy to just take a paycheck and get beat up, Yeah. Which is what happened.
One day I had the pleasure of interviewing was the great, lovely Miss Frida Gibbs. And Frida, she was one of the first Black women from America to win the kickboxing, and she did pretty good in boxing. I think one point, she really, that really got her was I forgot the girl's name. It was the same girl that beat Christy before she fought when she was planning to fight Lashina Riker, and this is the same girl. I think I wanted to see her fight a particular fighter, but that fight never happened. Or a good example is I'm thinking, you remember Joe Kazaga? He never fought he never fought Tarver or Roy Jones. Oh, he's great in the Britain, but he didn't come over here and fought one of those guys.
He fought Roy Jones, but Roy was much older.
Roy fell off.
And honestly, I think Roy wasn't even really trying to fight. I think Roy took
I watched that fight. I was disappointed. My heart was breaking. But he didn't fight Tarver. That's what I'm thinking. He didn't fight Tarver or Glenn Johnson. Those two guys beat Roy Jones. So, but yeah, I'd say you fighting I think one thing with Roy, we just sort of like, hey, Roy spent too much time in the studio. So that was hey, Roy, be in the ring, not in the studio. I say he had a decent rap career, but you spent too much time.
What hurt Roy though what hurt Roy really that destroyed him was going up to heavyweight and he won and beat. I can't remember the guy's name, but going back down, he lost all his speed and reflexes, and Roy never had a great chin. He never needed to because it was so hard to hit him. But once he lost that split second of timing and speed, it was over for him. Like, everyone found out he had a glass jaw, and he didn't know when to stop. He actually should have stopped, I think, after his second Tarver fight. But I honestly think, man, he probably should have stopped after his first Tarver fight. I think Tarver showed.
Like the thing with any fighter, it's hard for them to walk away because that's what they're used to. That's what like Rocky Balboa says, "I'm a fighter. That's what I am. That's all I know." And it's hard for them to walk away. That's why you saw Van Holyfield came back a few years and kept fighting, even though he was like almost in his 50s. I would be surprised if Jake Paul want to fight Roy Jones Jr. I wouldn't be surprised. That could happen. Because Roy's only like maybe 3 or 4 years younger than Mike. They fought a few years ago. And went to a draw. I think Mike won that fight, but they said it was a draw. But the thing is that.
Well, the truth is, Roy, I feel like even that staged fight was not fair to Roy because Roy is naturally a smaller human being than Mike Tyson. Sure, they're both the same height, but Roy is naturally, throughout most of his adult life, a 160-pound person. Mike Tyson, throughout most of his adult life, is naturally a 220-pound person. Way different size difference there, guys. So yes, if they were to really fight in that, especially from that, what was that, 3 years ago, then Mike really would have knocked him out. And the truth is, Paul, it would be in Paul's favor because Paul is naturally a much bigger person than that. Jake Paul is really, because he's on steroids and stuff, he's 6'1", and probably most of the year ranges from 230 to 250 pounds. So then you're going to go up against a 70-year-old or a 60-year-old former elite boxer who's really supposed to be fighting at 160 pounds. Well, the 20-something-year-old's going to win. But that's what I mean by staged fights.
Yeah.
Jake Paul is a staged hype job.
What if we put Jake Paul against, I'm thinking of somebody, Shannon Briggs?
I mean, if Shannon is not agreeing to take the L on purpose, I think Shannon could probably still knock him out right now. The truth is, Jake Paul needs to stop taking on all these celebrity staged matches and actually just fight an actual boxer, professional boxer who's in his weight class. That's also his age group. That's it. But they're not going to do that because he's a staged job.
He don't want to do that because remember he fought Tyson Fury's brother, he beat him. And and that
wasn't even a great fight either. Like Tommy Fury's not a great fighter. Tommy Fury is just okay. And he beat Fury. But yeah, it's whatever. But at the end of the day, right now, especially in the world of boxing, like all these mainstream fights, they're now starting to become. It seems like it's more like WWE, where it's more about spectacle, personalities, versus actual real elite fighters who worked their way up and fought top competition to eventually take each other on in a like a real true heavyweight championship bout, whatever. It's a lot of cherry picking and stacking wins up against low quality opponents to make the fighter seem impressive, because then they're able to push them on to the youth and a lot of people as a new personality, someone to start selling sports drinks products and all that. Like I started to see that early on with Jake Paul's career, so I was like, oh, okay, he's a brand.
Also, it's the white hype, thing. It's just, black boxers, Spanish boxers have dominated for such a long time. That's why it's so much attention when Tyson Fury fought, Wilder, because here comes this white boxer. He comes in. He to me, honestly, Wilder beat him the first fight.
Wilder sucks though. Wilder is horrible.
He don't have no. He just need to. He needs to work on his road work. His legs are like pencils. He lost to that Chinese guy. That was disappointment. He was just really a power fighter.
Wilder is also he's an example of tomato cans being set up for him to eventually get this impressive record. Because if you go back and look at all his knockouts, other than the Tito Ortiz, he was going against bums in his entire career. All those knockouts, all this stuff about he's like this greatest power puncher of all time. Yes, the dude can hit hard. I'll give him that. But look at the quality of fighters he was going up against. Dude, all those knockouts. These guys were bums. And then he built up this impressive resume, and people are like, oh, he's this great deal. Then he has the draw with Tyson the first time, and some people, even Floyd Mayweather, thought that Tyson won the first one. But then you see the second two fights, and I just looking at my own, just seeing how wild and sloppy. This dude is not a boxer. Deontay Wilder has no boxing actual skill or IQ. He's just a wild. And so he goes up against a boxer, Tyson Fury, and got embarrassed in front of everybody. And to me, it was all set up. I'm like, yeah, it's the great white hype thing. And it's their way of it's a form of racism where it's like, hey, let's show this elite white boxer destroying the so-called elite black boxer. But anytime, and I used to get in trouble when I would talk to other brothers about like, bro, like leading up to Wilder's rise, I remember it was like I was still in my 20s, so this was like maybe 25. I was like 24, 25 years old. And I remember seeing early clips of him because my god brother was trying to hype him up. And I was like, bro, this dude sucks. I don't care that he's winning. He is garbage. His skill is terrible. I said, bro, all it takes is one fighter who actually can just counter him, and he's going to get knocked the F out. So I was calling it out early on, and then people were like, oh, you're just hating, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, bro, do not put all your eggs in the Deontay Wilder basket. I was saying this since I was 24 years old, so this is 13 years ago. And then, boom, they hype him up and have him go against Tyson Fury, and then everyone's all, like, disappointed when he got ragdolled like that. I was like, whatever, you all wanted to. Bro, just because. Go ahead.
He was like, till this day. When he said like till this day, that's what it was. He was just really. That's what it was. People wanted, coming out of the era of from Mike, from Ali to Tyson. You had guys like Lance Lewis was like very British and very proper. People just like in the mindset, like Sonny Liston was. They saw him as a thug. One fighter that people really backed, especially white people backed, was Joe Louis. We fought that Max
Smelling, I think. Smelling.
Yeah, that's it. That was the only time when white people we backed the black fighter because of the time we had the World War II. He was just Nazi in Germany. He wasn't Nazi.
German.
He was just German. He wasn't Nazi. He didn't believe it. He just because he lived in that country, he had to survive. He had to fight. Right. And I think one person I remember. You remember? He comes to America with Eddie Murphy says they always bring it up. Joe, they always bring it up. Rocky Marciano, always bring it up. I was like, and Eddie is your Jewish man says he beat Joe Louis's ass, and all she says, yeah, Joe Louis he get the ass whooping.
But Joe was also extremely old when he fought Marciano. Joe was nowhere near. So,
Joe was like 105 years old.
Everything has to be taken in context. But back to the whole Wilder thing, it's like you can't compare him to Joe Louis and Sonny Liston because you go look at those guys could actually box. Like Deontay Wilder can't box. So it's like, what do we and this is one of the things I actually talked to KLA about recently is like the media knows how to get black people emotionally riled up to support someone just because they're black. Like, it's a black person, so we gotta support him because it's Team Black, blah blah blah. And I'm like, bro, they'll set up any kind of fool or staged person, a minstrel show, whatever, to get you all to believe in this hype job or whatever, and then they'll select their own person who actually is, say, good, or maybe they actually rigged the fight so that person wins. Like in the case of Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, that was purposely rigged for Katie Taylor to win. Like there's no But they do stuff like that. The people that run the media, and guess who the people that run the media are? Mostly of European descent. They set this stuff up to get people, especially of us minority groups, worked up and riled up to support someone emotionally and then we don't even take into account what our eyes are showing us, where, dog, this dude actually sucks. But we're so caught up in the emotion and hype because we're like, oh, he's representing black people. Then we all fall for, the setup, the okie doke. The same thing happened with Mike Tyson. And it's like, yeah, we want Mike Tyson to win, but I knew before the fight, I was like, bro, this is all set up for Jake Paul to win. Like, this is all BS. And anyone who gets their emotions caught up in it, they got played the fool. You shouldn't. I didn't watch the fight. Haven't watched any of the clips because I knew Mike was destined to lose.
Like I said, I'm one of those people who was, because you know what? Watching Mike Tyson back in the day, watching the training clips, is like, like, I just say, this boy ain't gonna be Mike Tyson, and then I didn't see all clips. I saw stuff here and there. I said, damn, Mike, you can beat this chump. I mean, what, this boy, he's not no real fighter. He's a chump. You can beat him anything. Maybe Larry Holmes, who's 77 years old, he can beat Jake Paul. I'm like this. I know people, we do get, we do have our heroes. The other thing is, I'm not going to say it like that. Heroes shouldn't be celebrities. But the problem is, celebrities are the ones that are out there. That's what we see on the most. Like, you look on television, look on, you watch movies and videos, you see celebrities. We should hype out, like, people who are actually doing stuff, like teachers and, and politicians who are doing good work, not the ones who are just sitting around just, doing stupid shit because they got nothing else to do. But it's so easy to get people behind something because of their fandom, I'm a fan. Like, I wouldn't, with one lady, like I said again, I am a fan of, I wouldn't mind getting a ring with her for a couple of minutes, and that is Andrea Shaw. I'm just like, I'd be disqualified for excessive.
Does she box, or that's just a
I think that's
model?
Just a photo.
Yeah,
it would be nice to see her do it because she's big. Like in real life, she's even though she's shorter, she's big.
Yeah, she's like, if you put against her and Levine, that'd be a great fight. Make it like a little charity thing. That'd be something exciting to see. I mean,
I think Lavina would actually beat her up just because Lavina can actually. She's at least shown she can actually punch on the pads. Maybe Andrea would be able to get to that point, but I just don't know if Andrea has any interest in doing it. But it would be interesting. That would be a great, because they're both similar heights. Andrea's bigger, but Lavina, we've seen, can actually throw power. But it would be a fun little exhibition.
Yeah, like if you could think of a fantasy fight, especially if could it be mixed, could it be woman on woman, man on man, mixed, whichever. Who would you like to see?
I'm gonna raise my hand. Is an old school female bodybuilder. Not many people know. Her name was Jennifer Kaler. She's 6'1", and she got up to 240 pounds in the off season. She is a great physique. She's not as like ripped as most bodybuilders, but she didn't need to be. She was a firefighter, and I think she also served in the Army. I never saw any clips of her like punching or doing anything like that, but she had, you all can try to Google it real quick or show it up. Jennifer Kaler, Kaylor, Amazon, who just, to me, was like, she's beautiful and had a very lioness type of build, but she was also very muscular as a bodybuilder. I think she would have been amazing. I'm really sad that she didn't compete, but I think she only did like 1 or 2 shows maybe. But it's because the judges didn't like her. She was too tall for them, and
how do you spell her name? K-Leg? K?
No, Jennifer Kaler is Kaylo.
Oh. Okay, I think
she's from the mid or early 2000s. She's amazing, man. Like, I would love to see her.
Let me see.
Against
I think
anybody.
this is
not that's Lauren
video.
Pound.
No, but this is
That's
you look
her,
right
the
here.
tall one.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah, and Lauren Power, she also I think did little stuff like that. Yeah, great look, very attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
6'1", it got up to 240 pounds in the off season. She's like 200 right there.
Bro,
she's a firefighter. Like she actually had to lift up and rescue people and all that type of stuff. And like I saw a picture that she used to be in the army, military. So like what you need to see is the pictures of her standing next to the other girls on stage, because she made girls like Tatiana Butler and Lauren Powers. Tatiana Butler is like 5'9", and she made her look tiny. Jennifer did. She makes all of them look tiny. But
there goes Annie Vicchio right there.
There's Lauren Powers watching.
Yeah, she's muscular. You skipped her. You passed her.
Huge.
No, I don't have to throw the video.
Okay.
Whoa. You should have just stopped right there when you got to her.
Let's see, swing back again. Give it a second. Let's swing back and I'll pause it. There we go.
Yeah.
She's prettier than all of them, and she was way bigger. I mean, this right here, she's just in the side. But if you see her, go back and look at her in the full figure.
Let's see. Let's let the video switch. And there he is, right there.
I got her on my phone, to tell you the truth. I see.
Look at her hips and her legs. That's what to me is the most impressive. Is not having a super big upper body. The having a super big upper body is not really that important when it comes to fighting. It's more like the legs and hips and stuff that help, especially for women. Generating that power is a much bigger factor.
Yeah,
but
like I said, she looks. Yeah, she's. I mean, stature is 6 feet tall.
She's only been in a few shows. She like, think about it. She didn't even go and compete that long. Like, if you go look at her career, she was only in it for like maybe a year or two or something like that. Like, you imagine what she would have continued to look like had she not. She got discouraged from the judges, from what I read. The judges kept on putting her in horrible rankings. And some people think it's because she was so tall, the judges were intimidated by her. There's a lot of insecure male bodybuilders that if they were to see women like that, who's 6'1", they're gonna, because most male bodybuilders are actually short. They're like 5'6" on average. She's gonna make them look tiny. She's gonna make everybody look tiny, and that probably was a little too threatening. So the judges gave her horrible ratings. I think she was like last in every show she came in, and I'm like, oh man, y'all. That's when I was like, man, F these judges, F this corrupt bodybuilding world. Right.
Yeah. I know that's like, the lady I talked about earlier, Nicole Bass, she was around 6'1", 6'2", and she did have a short stint time in wrestling, which is, she was a big woman herself. Be as tall she was. She, fought in WWE for a good bit, and then she moved on. She was doing some other stuff here and there.
I got some of her wrestling videos downloaded, some of her sessions.
She also did some stand-up because, she passed away like about almost 10 years ago. And I remember one time she had an episode with her husband, her late husband, on Arsenio Hall. They were talking. Not Arsenio, it was Montel Williams. Because you remember Montel, he was really into the female bodybuilding, stuff. He was a big fan. She did a lot of mixed wrestling too. Some say she just didn't have the good talent for WWE. I think at the time, China was on her way out, and they needed someone to kind of fill that shoes for a bit. And they could have got Anne-Marie Cooks Midnight, but they decided not to do that. But
the judges just hate tall. The judges, when it comes to bodybuilders, they just hate the tall women. I've never seen a tall woman do very well when it comes to female bodybuilding. They prefer to keep them all short, in either 5'5" or under is what I've seen. anything that's tall or big. Even though what's funny is the taller girls, when it comes to muscle, taller girls, it takes them longer to develop it on their lankier frames, but the taller girls actually pull it off better because they look a lot more superheroine like. They look like She-Hulk. They look like Wonder Woman. They wow the crowd way more than the short girls do because they're just way bigger.
Shout out to my friend, the lovely Miss Tina S. Williams. You know, she's like 5'9", you know, tall woman.
I could see her as a fighter. I could see that. I could.
Well, KL, your turn. Who would you like to see if you had a fantasy? See, you know, either would you want to be a mix, like, you know, man and woman, you know, woman on woman? Who would you like to see?
Shit, I got to be in the fantasy.
Or who you wanted to be?
Anybody that come in my mind. I mean, you know, it don't even really have to be a woman bodybuilder, man. Like, I was watching. It was this girl. I forgot her name. She's thick, and you know, she be in these videos, and she the way how she smothers a guy, it's like, wow, you know. I don't have the name. I think her name is a Diva or something like that. Yeah, but I have to look at it. But you know, there's other varieties that I see. Like, you know, I can't really like tell you a name, really, like a specific person, because it could, you know, sometimes they don't have to be a bodybuilder. Just if I'm like really impressed with the person, you know, I like them and stuff. But I could give you a name, Rage Shield Maiden, that I interviewed. I thought that she was impressive because the way how she kind of she pins down women and then she pins down guys and all that stuff like that. I wouldn't mind having like a fantasy mixed wrestling with her stuff. So.
Right. Well, I told you my fantasy already. You know who I wanted to be. You know, but but you know, that's like I said. That's the thing about dreams and fantasies everybody have them. But the standard, when it comes down to it, it's about what you like, and also understanding all the factors come in when it comes to women and fighting, women with muscle who fight, or just women who fight. Period. You know. I like I said, I interviewed quite a few ladies who are in mixed martial arts. Some ladies I've seen who look like they could, you know, like one more pop of my head, Kayla Harrison. She's really buff, especially for an MMA fighter. You know, and you know, other ones who just have great technique and skills. You know, like me, Joy was talking about a lady I'm a fan of, Valentina Shevchenko. Her skill set's just amazing. I mean, she knows how to move. She's quick. She understands a factor. Sometimes she makes some mistakes here and there, like any other fighter, but she's a great skill fighter. You know, really, women don't get enough, you know, attention when it comes to that because society always sees more attention towards men. Because it's just, I think the mindset of everybody's natural for men to fight. But when we were in school, remember when the girls fight? The girl fights were fun because we were teenage boys. We were hoping to see some titties and ass. That's what we were looking forward to.
Yeah, it was ferocious at that time, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, I think you know, like even throughout history, it was always like that because I would read about the gladiators and stuff, and you know, the people would like to see the men versus men. They didn't really wanted to see women versus women because it was like inappropriate. That those things they happened like ages ago. Like the man was always the dominant factor. Like in England, like in them days, like where they would have like underground fights with women versus women, and it was brutal and stuff. But people didn't want to see that shit. They wanted to see the men. Really. So they always had. Not go ahead.
I mean, it's just because like that's the way the history of humans have been. The men in like there's a big difference between human men's capabilities and women's capabilities because of mainly we've gone so extreme in our roles. It's not like say wild animals where if you take a lion and a lioness, yes, the lion's gonna win like most all the time, but the lioness is also going to be able to do a lot of damage and handle her own. This is across the animal board, and in some cases the animal females are superior to the males. I'm thinking of hyenas, but we as humans, for the most part, have, at least for a large part of our history, I don't know if it's been all, like if you're taking it back to like not prehistoric, but like caveman type of days, but we have kept it to where men are the exclusive fighters and warriors for such a long time. That's why there's such a huge gap. And that's why people don't really want to see women fighting unless it's for a sexual purpose or for just a freak show circus type of thing. Because they did have female gladiators back in the day. And then, the Vikings entertained. I think the Vikings liked strong women. And that's why if you actually look at Northern European, Scandinavian women, they are, even though they're very beautiful, like a lot of them are naturally big women. And it's like, oh man, maybe in the past life y'all were shield maidens or something like that. So there's cultures that have liked stronger women, but in terms of like just being interested in seeing people fight, it's always going to be men, unless the woman is so attractive and or so skilled that it causes people to be like, oh wow, like they're intrigued by that. So it's no mystery.
If a woman like a bulldog, say, hey, you can find what you want, bitch. I don't care. But if she looks like very, very attractive, then say, no, you can't. We don't want you mentioning your pretty face. We don't want you, because that's a concern. Because they feel that if you fight, a lot of female fighters, there's some ladies who still look very attractive, who are fighters. We talk about again. I mentioned Mary Serrano. She's a very attractive lady, and she's been going through wars. She's fought so many for a long time. Layla Ali, but even though she hadn't gotten a lot of wars compared to some of the others, it's just about how people feel comfortable about something. And then if you're somebody who do like it, they look at you kind of strange. Why do you like something like that? Because it's something different. It's just something that's not the norm of society's idea. I mean, that's why I enjoy doing interviews with ladies from mixed martial arts. Just this month, I got to do 2 ladies. I had that interview with 2 ladies. They both did a Victor fight about early this month. And it's been a long time.
I was going to ask you, like, did you ever look at it? Like, why do you like it sometimes? Because sometimes I do that at times.
I think something different. Because it might be a bit of a fantasy about it, but just when you look at it now from a standpoint, you see some of these ladies really go out there and put their hearts in their sleeves. Like I interviewed some ladies who do BKFC, bare knuckle fighting. And that's tough. A lady I'm really cool with, Melanie Shaw. That lady, she took a beating when she fought, Britain Hart. She was only barely a month for a camp. They gathered the camp like just the last minute for a fight camp. She always said, like, if I had a full fight camp, maybe 12 weeks for a fight camp, George, I think it would have done better. But because they needed an opponent, like when I interviewed Jamie, when she fought her fight, she was only a month in for a fight, and then she still beat the opponent, but it was still hard for her because she didn't get a full fight camp. Her last fight, she knocked the girl out in the second round, just a little over a minute, because she had opportunity for a full fight camp. And one thing is, I wouldn't call anybody a bum. Anybody who gets into this fighting game, it's tough. Most people couldn't do what they do. Maybe the skill set is not as good as some of the top level fighters. And yes, that's the thing that they always used to call, hey, that guy's a bum. But you know what? You gotta think about it. He got into the ring. Some guys with the distance with some fighters. One guy who likes to talk about it, he said, "Oh, I'm not that Ali, but you tripped him. That's Chuck Weber." And that was the idea for Rocky, because of that fight with Ali and Chuck Weber. Because I think
I heard about that.
Back to what you were saying, though, LA, I do agree. I have done some self-analysis, because I think there is a level of deeper psychology in terms of why we like these types of women. And especially what I believe, there's something about, I think, certain strong athletic women that I saw growing up. Also, their charisma, their personality, they were a little bit more rebellious. And then also seeing women who are both attractive and confident enough in their own physical abilities to get away with it in a male-dominated world. There is something that's very exotic about that. But then also, too, if you've ever encountered times where, say, an attractive woman, like when you're a kid, she comes and like, sticks up for you or protects you or helps you with a bully, that type of thing. I think, or even stands up against like a male abuser type of person, whether it's physical or emotional, then I think the planting of that seed of that fantasy starts to grow. Because then I know me, I started having the fantasy of stronger women boxing and beating up men even as early as 5 years old. And back then it was just tall women, as long as she was taller. Then as I got into when I turned 12, it became muscular and as well as taller. Then now that I'm older, it's actually just bigger, stronger women. I'm talking about curvy, full figure physiques. And that's why I'm actually much more interested in thick, curvy, like, or strong women, powerlifter type builds, or even seeing strippers who have a bigger, like, the normal society would be like, oh, she's fat, blah, blah, blah. But if you really like touch her or see her, like her legs moving, you realize like that's a strong woman. Like, yeah, she's got a lot of curve and fluff over it, but you realize like she's more like a bear than she is like some kind of.
I can tell you from my experience working in a strip club, those girls that do those tricks, like, I mean, once she did like a sliding that she stop herself halfway. Those girls have strong legs. Then I've been in the VIP with quite a few of them. I've been and some of the ladies, we were cool friends. We sit down talking, we're cool. But yeah, that is because the idea of is that women like that. Oh, she said, but you got to think about it. Once you feel it, it's you should that you just it's a little bit jelly, but still a little bit firm to it. It's just especially they had to know how to do tricks. Because they got to do tricks because that's the one thing to get their money.
They are strong women. Like, our full disclosure, I had a recent visit and I did do the VIP lap dance, and it was with a very curvy, voluptuous girl. I kid you not. The thing that surprised me, I could tell just from looking at her build. I was like, she looks like she's kind of strong. But when she sat and gave me the dance, like, I went ahead and touched her. I know you're not supposed to touch, but she was cool with it. And I felt her legs. I'm like, bro, I have big, strong legs. I used to play football, so I'm like, that's one of the things I'm known for is bigger, stronger legs. Her legs were bigger than mine, but not only were they bigger, they were harder. I was like, what the heck? Like, this was like grabbing on the legs of a horse, a real horse. I was like, this is crazy. Because like George was saying, she's one of those that's, even though she's big and heavy, she's doing all those tricks on the pole. That takes a lot of muscle to be to do that if you're a heavy girl. Like, I was like, God, I told her, I was like, you are strong as hell. And she was like, thank you. Like, I was like, man.
Well, this club I used to go to, you can touch the girls. Hey, you can touch. It was.
This one you can touch, basically.
I missed that place. It was a great place to work at, cool place, but it's been gone. But yeah, guys, folks, this is something I think it's up to you as a person what you find appealing about it. If you just like the idea of women fighting, you just like the idea of a fantasy or something like that, But here the thing is, society shouldn't shame you for what you like because it's something different. And that's the thing about, if it's something that's not the norm by the standards of everybody else, there's nothing you can do about it. You got to live for you. You got to do what you want to do. You got to, if you enjoy going to these shows and checking out these women and enjoy watching, women get into the cage or in a ring, if you enjoy, you just something that is something about you, just let people know. Like I said, I'm in the point of my life. I don't care. If you know about it, cool. But this is where we have to look at the viewpoint of it. It's entertainment also. It's no different from if you go to a boxing match and see two guys fighting. You enjoy watching that. So why you got a problem enjoying watching women go up? You can't. You say, oh, because you don't want to see a woman's face get messed up. Those women get into that situation because they want to be competitive. Just like any sport, just like in bodybuilding, these ladies want to compete. Just like in any other sport, you want to compete. They know they can't compete against men at a different level, but they want to have their own place in a sport. They feel like that they feel comfortable in, you know. And again, there's, like I said, some ladies do use this the way to make money because there is a money for it, there's a fetish for it. You know, don't knock them for their hustle because the fact is, hey, not everybody can do what they do, but I respect what they do because that's what they have to do for their living. You got to live for you, nobody else. Like Bernie Mac says, if people don't like what you fuck them. So, gentlemen, do you have anything else to say before we end this discussion? It's pretty good.
Nah, man, this was cool.
I like this.
Yeah. So, like I said, folks, I usually, this is something, not the typical board, but then it kind of, some ways kind of collide a little bit, And I often tell you guys, if you have something you truly interested in talking about, it's just in the realm that we can really, understand, explain it, and share it.
You know what? I do got something. Like, why don't you have like a talk with the bikini versus? I don't know if it's versus, but like something about bikini with women bodybuilding and fit model or something like that with these divisions.
With
like
they're not fighting, but like.
I wasn't like pointing like fighting, but when we're fighting it, but it was mostly like how the different fans for different divisions or something like that. Because I was thinking about it the other day. What I'm saying, like even just talking with some of these women, like it, they. I think each division has like its prejudices and stuff. If I'm saying it right,
other, bro. I was going to throw in one thing real quick though. If we was coming down to fighting, my money, just to be honest, is on the figure girls. I think the figure girls would whoop every division's ass in fighting because those girls, when they're off season, are big. They are big and they're more tall, lanky, and their personalities. They seem to be more athletic. I think figure girls.
No, actually, don't forget fitness. Those girls can move, they can jump, and some of them do have some very athletic. The fitness girls could be a problem because you might somebody come and do like some kind of martial arts swinging, flying crane kick. Because figure girls are pretty impressive, but those fitness girls are more athletic.
Yeah,
I was talking about like when it comes to the pageant types, but yes, if you throw fitness in there, I think fitness is gonna do damage. But if you're talking about figure versus wellness versus bikini versus bodybuilder, my money is on the figure girls because them girls in person when they're off season, they are huge. I mean, you'll hear even female bodybuilders talk about like how are these figure girls getting so big? I think it's mainly because most of them tend to be taller than the female bodybuilders. And I think they're naturally bigger people than them. But anyway, I'm sorry to jump in like that.
That's all right. That's why it's an open discussion. One lady who I follow, I think she is, she could be possibly the next figure because with Sid Gillen retired, and she's possibly the next figure champion, and that is Lola Montez. I'm gonna pull this video real quick, guys, and it's one with Lola working out. And if you ever seen Lola, some says that she should do physique because I think I shared this one with KL. Here's Lola right here, and you look at her. I mean, this is just wow. Look at the arms. I mean, she is just shoulders just crazy. I mean, and also she is very attractive. She has her physique is just. And one thing I think that the thing that will hurt her is she does have her OnlyFans. I hope she may be that thing about there's a lot of politics in bodybuilding.
But don't Chelsea Dion? She have like a OnlyFans too? Is she even do like other things too? She even do session videos and all that type of stuff. Like, yeah.
But that means that she'll probably, because one thing is, two factors with Chelsea. She's very attractive. She's attractive. She has a great physique, but it's not the level that they want to see compared to Andrea. And Chelsea's tall too, because she's like about 5'8", 5'9".
She's 5'9". She's big. I've seen her up close in off season. She's bigger than me. Like that is a huge woman.
Also,
but like I said, bodybuilders don't like. The judges don't like tall women.
Yeah, she's half Mexican too, because I remember she's supposed to be. She went to her family's home, her father's side of the family for the holidays.
Yeah. Well, guys, I gotta go, man. I really appreciate this topic. Yeah, man. Maybe next time.
All right,
all right.
Yeah, so we'll figure it out. But thank you for the topic, guys. I appreciate y'all for coming through. Shout out to man KL, the Wanderer. Shout also to BC Royce. Go check out his content. Also check out my man KL. He's on YouTube. He's also on IG. Just put in Ed, Mr. Ed. You should find him. And Brandon BC Royce. You can find him. He does photos. If you ever in the area, because he's on the West Coast. He's in Cali. So if he's ever at an event and you are a woman that's who are fitness athletic and you want to take some pictures and get some drawings of yourself, do it. The same thing I say this to ladies bodybuilders. Hey, let them draw you. Don't be shy. But folks, I appreciate the people that were here and came in and showed support. My man KLD, Raheem Hamilton, Darian Hamer, Panther 7, my brother XA Gucci 23, also Curtis L. Jr. Curtis. Thank y'all for coming through and supporting my content, supporting my channel. Folks, next month is Mother's Day. Shout out to the amazing mothers out there. I missed mine. Mine was my woman. I love her. It wasn't for her, dealing with her and her stuff, I wouldn't have started this. I owe her so much. And that's one thing I think I saw her. She had to fight my father and just the world. And that's why I think I really, why I think I went fighting, because my mother and my sisters, they had to fight. All my life I had to fight. So, shout out to them, shout out to the ladies, and I hope you have an upcoming Mother's Day. Folks, enjoy the rest of this month. We only have a couple more days left. I appreciate y'all coming through. Shout out to my guests who were here. Shout out to the guests who were in the comment section, give you support. I appreciate that. It's your man, All the Way George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Body Talk. Like, thought, subscribe. I am out. Good night, good evening, good luck, and God bless.